Kia ora, kumusta kopungan? I'm Marianne Infante and welcome to Breathing Space. I'm really thrilled about our next guest and I would like to introduce him. He's originally from Singapore but now is living in Auckland via Sydney and Shanghai, is an actor, husband, brother, friend and an aspiring writer. Since arriving in Aotearoa 6 years ago, he has been catapulted through his involvement in the theatre on a quest to rediscover and reclaim his South Asian identity. I would like to introduce Mustaq Missouri. Hi.
Kia ora, Marianne. Thanks for having me here.
Thank you for joining me. It's so refreshing to see you. I'm interested to know how are you today?
Well, today I'm feeling fairly happy and fairly positive, actually. We're on level 2 at the moment, which is an improvement from what we were, I think it was a week ago. So, yes, life seems to be getting back to a little semblance of normalcy for me. I've been able to go out. I've met one or two. I've actually gone out of my bubble twice now. So I've met a couple of friends. We've had coffee, and it was just great to just catch up with people properly, in a non-online setting, I suppose. So for that reason, I'm fairly grateful that this has happened. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty okay today. And I prior to this as well, I had another project, so I was doing another Zoom rehearsal. So that got my creative juices flowing. And then I've got this now, so it's good. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. Basically,
No, not at all.
I would love to know who are you, Mustaq, or who were you when your craft is on pause?
That's a really interesting question. I think being professional creatives like you and I, there are many times when our preferred mode of expression, I think, is on pause, especially with acting. What I am when I'm not acting or when I'm not writing, I suppose I try to discover the other roles that I play, mainly that of a family person, a husband, um, a brother to my two sisters who live in Singapore. And also, I think when I'm on pause, I try to fill it up with experiences to try and help me with my art when, if not if, but when I have the opportunity to express it, basically. So, I mean, this didn't really happen during lockdown because I couldn't go out. But when I don't have a project, or I'm basically trying to gather experiences. So a simple thing like walking down the street on Queen Street. I live in the city, or going to an art gallery, or going to the movies, for example. I think are just very very valid activities to feed your creativity. I try to do that quite consciously. Every day I will make it a point to try and have something that hopefully in the future will inform me of my art.
During the lockdown, was there anything you were doing to fill your breathing space
Mm,
currently to
yeah,
reconnect with who you are or just who you
yeah,
are as a person?
yeah. Well, exactly. So when lockdown happened, even though I had one or two projects that I was working on, I found myself with a lot of time basically, and being at home. So what I did, and it wasn't a conscious thing, but I just felt the need to write more than I normally do. So that's what I did. I gave myself this task or this goal to try and write, I don't know, 400 or 500 words a day. I found that a relief, and I found that a distraction as well from the reality that was the lockdown. Also, what I found was that I think in the blurb that you talked about, I'm since coming to New Zealand. I mean, ironically, I felt this need to try and come to terms, perhaps, or to reconnect with my South Asian heritage, and by extension, my Singaporean roots as well. And by Singaporean, I mean my Indian side of it, the Muslim side of it. I grew up in a Muslim family, and also the Malay side of it, because the situation in Singapore is that the majority of the Muslims in Singapore are the indigenous Malay people. So even though I come from an Indian background, my family and the Indian Muslim community would gravitate towards the Malay community. So I in fact identify quite a bit more with the Malay culture than I do with my genetic Indian roots, I suppose, if you can call it that. So I feel these streams of influences that I've had, I've always tried to ignore them in a certain way, because growing up in Singapore, I had issues with these identities that was imposed upon me, and it's only taken me a good 50 odd years to come to try and understand what that meant actually from afar. And I started thinking about that. So this whole idea of memory and nostalgia came into being, and it's informed my writing as well. So I've been thinking a lot about my time in Singapore, my interactions with the people there, people whom I've lost through the years, my mum, for example, and my dad, and these reminiscences are very cathartic in a way, because I think there is something that I can talk about in my writing, and also hopefully in the show that I'm working on. But it's also a way of coming to terms with you, with yourself, with your identity. The gist of it was that I didn't feel comfortable being there, being a minority, being a person who was considered different in terms of looks, in terms of the way I thought and all that. And I wanted to leave as quickly as I could. And I did. The first opportunity I did, I left. And I think I left not coming to terms with certain things. And it's taken me this amount of time to perhaps have a slightly different perspective on things, which allows me to analyze it, I suppose. And the way I do it is through my art. At the moment, it's through my writing, through my recollections of things. And I love this whole idea of how our memories are seemingly real, but they're very unreliable. They're unreliable narrators, basically. And I embrace that. I love the fact that memories are apocryphal, actually. We make it up sometimes. There is truth and there is also fiction. And that's what a combination of that is brilliant, I feel. So I'm hoping to investigate that a little bit more.
It's quite amazing how you've used this time to find the joy in memories, whether they're sad or happy, as well as using that to fuel your story writing at the moment. I mean, the many stories I've heard is, people have gone to their baking, they've gone to hang out with their dogs, but you have actually gone deeper and used this time to reflect on your identity and the discomfort of what it was like for you growing up. And I think what a great use of your lockdown time.
I was just about to say, these ideas had been kind of fermenting in my mind for a while, but I think it took an enforced 6 weeks of not being able to get out of the home to have some sort of fruition into it. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, so I feel it's still a very much an ongoing process.
Thank you so much for sharing your breathing space and what that's been like for you, and also sharing your basically your childhood and growing up. There's there's a lot of deep explorations there, and I think a lot of people have done the same in terms of reflecting on their identity, who they are, and I really admire that. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Dakala salamat. Honestly, that was super refreshing to hear from you as well. And everyone, this is Mustaq Missouri. I'm Marianne Infante, and this is Breathing Space.